Looking at the video thumbnail, you probably already have a good idea about what I'll be talking about. Right now, the two killers in Alter Ego, Caduceus and Husk, feel almost exactly the same. Unlike the survivors where they all have varying playstyles, Caduceus and Husk is more or less identical. This isn't just a killer role issue either, all of their abilities serve the same purpose with barely any other uses. Both Caduceus and Husk plays the aggro role, basically the most simple archetype in an asim game, where a killer specializes in chasing and dishing out damage to survivors. Having the same role is completely fine since it'd be impossible to create a new archetype for each new killer, even more unfeasible when you consider the game is planning to have at least 10 killers. But just because they have the same archetype doesn't mean their playstyle or ability should be completely the same, which is very much the case with Caduceus and Husk. Let's take a look at their abilities and compare them. Do I even have to explain? They're exactly identical. At a glance, you may think that there's not much one could do with a simple M1, but really, there is. Maybe they could do something with Caduceus' theme of being this weird eldritch creature and perhaps nerf the damage down to just 10 and apply a short slow, a mechanic that is currently in Foul Breath, or perhaps makes Heavy Swing a slower M1 but deal more damage. Maybe even mark the victim you've hit and allow Husk to deal even more damage the next time you've hit the person with that mark for a few seconds. There's a lot of options for M1 rather than just a bland 25 HP with a 1 second cooldown. Caduceus' Spectral Dash and Husk Forward Leap are both movement utilities but with a little twist for each of them. Spectral Dash is pure movement while Forward Leap is, well, a leap that deals AoE damage with arguably less flexibility compared to the former. Personally, I believe that not every killer needs a dash, especially not Caduceus. Like I've mentioned earlier, Caduceus should expand more on its slowdown and add a move that complements it further. Maybe an AoE ability that he could activate which applies slowdown indefinitely to anyone who's near and around him. Or even better, the ability to just pull anyone that has the slowdown debuff, like say a few studs back. There's so many ways to make every killer viable in preying or chasing their victims than just adding a dash and calling it a day. The developers should be looking at more fun and out-of-the-box ideas. Foul Breath and Ancient Punishment at their core are secondary damage abilities that both serve the same goal of closing a gap. Personally, I actually think Paradoxum did a great job on this. Ancient Punishment's approach of being a quick charge into a grab and Foul Breath's long-range ball that creates a trail that slows survivors. They both fit their killer style, Husk being a close and personal brawler, Caduceus being a demonic otherworldly being. Both of these abilities, despite serving the same goal, have completely different uses. Foul Breath being more of a harassing tool to let Caduceus stick to its prey longer, while Husk is a follow-up to guarantee him more damage. You could argue that Caduceus' version can also be used as a follow-up and even net you more damage thanks to its slow, but frankly, the fact that he has a much longer startup cooldown and the fact that it is harder to aim his ball, the risk versus reward is much more volatile than Husk. So yes, same purpose but different uses. These are all very nice. Good job, Paradoxum. Well, if only the ultimates were just as good. The thing that is supposed to be the most important and the most defining for a killer is completely generic. Don't get me wrong, the visuals are awesome, no question, but they're practically the same thing. They both deal a flat 100 damage to any survivor hit, and that's it. The only difference is how they deal the damage, with Husk getting the short end of the stick here. Caduceus gets to fly up and pick anyone he wants, while Husk players have to manually aim his charge and hopefully hit survivor. How about we spice something up? Maybe let Husk get into a pump-up state for like 10 seconds, increasing his movement speed and allow him to grab up to 2 or maybe even 4 survivors during this state. And the moment the duration runs out or he grabs the maximum amount, he deals damage to everyone he had grabbed, with the damage increasing the more he grabs. This not only rewards skill but makes him so much more fun and satisfying to play. Imagine being chased by a Husk who had grabbed 3 other dudes under his armpits. Isn't that awesome? And finally, the passives, and honestly, it's really disappointing what they did here. Both Caduceus and Husk have the same passive, word for word, bar for bar. I really hope this isn't also the case for their upcoming alter ego, the Maul, who supposedly shakes the games up a lot. Passives are one of the most expressive things that developers can add to make each killer unique. Remember those suggestions I made earlier about M1s? We could expand on them too. The marks that Husk get from Heavy Swing? Why limit them to just M1? Let the mark apply from any of his abilities and make it so that it can only apply to a unique survivor every 30 seconds or something. That alone encourages Husk to dish out damage more evenly rather than locking onto just one person, which completely gives him a new playstyle. Isn't that cool? For Caduceus, let him apply slowdown on all moves. Of course, we should nerf this by making the slow more negligible and stack the more Caduceus lands its hits successfully. Slowdown is a very dangerous stat after all, and I recognize that too. So this proposal would make him reward the people who consistently hit his skills, right? The better you are, the better he plays. But the point is, don't just give everyone the same reveal footsteps, generators, survivors. Sure, maybe make some of them universal that are shared, but don't make all passives the same. It's a waste. Please, Paradoxon. And well, considering the game is still very early in development, and they probably just threw Caduceus or Husk out only because they don't want to test with only one killer, they likely just made a killer base and modified it with barely any changes for these 2 killers. I really hope that they rework Husk and Caduceus in the future, because right now, it feels very redundant.